You don't join Interpol like you join a movie. You don't get a badge that works in every country. You don't kick down doors in foreign cities and flash a logo. You start with a truth that disappoints people and saves lives. Interpol isn't a global police force. It's the system that lets police forces talk to each other before criminals disappear into borders. And your ranks aren't just promotions. They're shifts in what you control. First yourself, then information, then coordination, then whole networks. The cop who meets the border you begin in a national police job, local investigations, warrants, arrests that actually end with handcuffs. Then you get your first case that crosses a line on a map, a fraud ring that moved servers overseas, a missing child who might be on a flight right now, a violent suspect who vanished 2 hours before your team arrived, a passport number that shows up in a place it shouldn't. You learn the first frustration of international crime. You can be right, fast, and determined, then lose anyway because the suspect left your jurisdiction. You realize the enemy isn't only the criminal, it's time zones, language, paperwork, and delay. The international liaison someone tells you to contact your country's National Central Bureau, the NCB. Every member country has one. This is where Interpol exists in your daily life. At this level, your job is learning humility. You discover that international work isn't about who has the biggest gun. It's about who can provide clean identifiers, names, dates of birth, fingerprints, photos, travel history, bank details, device IDs. You learn to write requests in a way another country can actually use. Not dramatic, precise, because vague requests don't get refused. They get slowed to death. NCB desk officer. Now you're inside the NCB and your whole day becomes other people's urgency. You handle incoming messages that arrive like alarms. Subject may board flight within 3 hours. Victim located, identity uncertain, possible match in, another country confirmed. You learn Interpol's real sound, keyboards, phones, secure messages, and the steady pressure of being the person who has to turn a panic into a process. You don't arrest anyone. You make arrests possible. And you learn the second truth. International cooperation runs on trust, and trust runs on accuracy. One bad request can poison relationships for years. The analyst. If you're good, you move into analysis. Now your life is databases and link charts. You live in fragments, passport scans, hotel registrations, shipping records, phone numbers, aliases that repeat like fingerprints. You learn criminals don't travel like tourists, they travel like system. A money mule here, a recurring IP range, the same email style, the same broker name showing up in 3 unrelated cases. You become the person who sees the invisible thread and pulls it carefully, because pulling too hard breaks sources and spooks targets. You learn that most breakthroughs aren't heroic, they're administrative. A correct spelling, a confirmed date of birth, a match between 2 case files nobody thought belonged together. Notices and compliance. Now you touch. The tool the public knows. Notices. Red, notice. Blue, notice. Yellow, black, green, orange. You learn what they actually are. Requests and alerts. Not international arrest warrants. Every country decides what it will do with them under its own laws. You also learn why this job is tense. Because Interpol has rules. There are restrictions, political cases, persecution risks, misuse. So you become part investigator, part gatekeeper. You don't just ask, is this suspect wanted? You ask, is this request lawful, specific, and consistent with Interpol's constitution? Your pen can accelerate a capture or prevent abuse. And you learn the third truth. In international policing, legitimacy is operational security. If the system is seen as corrupt, the system stops working. General Secretariat. Now, you're seconded or hired into Interpol's General Secretariat. Maybe Lion, maybe a regional bureau. This is where the job becomes less about one case and more about many countries at once. You live inside I-247 networks, urgent messages, coordination calls where 5 agencies disagree politely while the suspect keeps moving. You learn diplomacy without calling it diplomacy. You learn how to say no in a way that still keeps cooperation alive. You learn how to push for faster action without insulting a partner service. You learn that every country has different legal thresholds, different politics, different limits, and none of that changes the fact that a child is missing now. Operations coordination. Now you work the urgent desk, major incidents, unfolding threats, time-sensitive leads. This is where international stops being abstract, a terrorism lead that must be verified without creating panic. A disaster victim identification effort where every hour changes what's possible. A cyber attack spreading across borders while attribution is still uncertain. A trafficking route where one wrong leak gets victims moved overnight. Your job is to keep information moving faster than the criminals. You learn the worst phrase in this world. Pending. Pending kills momentum. Momentum is how suspects become ghosts. Specialist units. Now you become a specialist. You sit with experts who don't romanticize anything. They talk in indicators, methods, money flows, recruitment patterns, online grooming tactics, false documents, border vulnerabilities. You learn the crime isn't one crime, it's an ecosystem. And you learn how fragile cooperation can be. One country's evidence is another country's intelligence. One country can act fast, another must build a court-ready chain. So you translate between worlds, not language standards. Team Lead B Unit Chief promotion doesn't give you more action, it gives you more consequence. Now you manage people, priorities, and reputations. You decide what gets escalated, what gets resources, what gets delayed, what gets handled quietly before it becomes public failure. You brief senior officials who want certainty. You give them probabilities. You keep your team calm when a partner country calls angry, when a notice is challenged, when a leak hits the press, when a suspect is arrested and suddenly 10 other cases depend on what he says next. You learn the hardest leadership skill here: protect the mission without breaking the network. Directorate now, you're shaping programs. Capacity building, training, technology, data quality, global operations support. You think in years, while criminals adapt in days. You fight the slow enemies: outdated systems, uneven resources, legal gaps, lack of training, distrust between neighbors who share a border but not a history. At this level, you understand the real war isn't only against criminals. It's against fragmentation. Executive leadership. You become a steward of something fragile, a global cooperation platform that must stay effective and credible while the world pulls it in opposite directions. You sit with ministers, chiefs, diplomats, oversight bodies. You defend neutrality while everyone wants advantage. You protect data while everyone wants access. You expand capabilities while watching for misuse. You learn the final truth of Interpol life. Your power is not a gun. It's a standard, a network, a shared language of identifiers, procedures, and trust, strong enough that when one country sees a name, another country can act before that name becomes unfindable. So what is your life at every level of Interpol? At the start, you chase a suspect and hit a border. Then you learn to write requests that survive other systems. Then you become the inbox, the analyst, the gatekeeper. Then you become the coordinator who keeps countries aligned. Then you become the leader who protects legitimacy so the whole machine keeps working. And if you do it right, the best outcome still looks ordinary to the public. A person is stopped at a border. A child is returned. A victim is identified. A fugitive is found. No movie scene, just a network working fast enough to beat distance.